the audience to another airman that has done something truly amazing and truly spectacular. You're looking at Zach Bauman. He's one of the original founders, one of the co-founders of Air Force Gaming, and so he got a chance to kind of give a little bit of his talk earlier today, and it was super compelling. And so we wanted to give a chance for folks to be able to meet him, kind of see what this is all about, spread the gospel and the word of what Air Force Gaming is all about. So I'll ask him a couple of questions about his background, a little bit about him personally, but then also about the initiative they're doing with Air Force Gaming. And then, as usual, we'll take a couple questions about installation things. Our typical number, I believe, is being displayed, but text in to that, and we'll be able to take any questions that you might have for today. If you're hanging around, we still have a couple more hours of this event, so come on down to Hangar 1600. You can park out in the parking lot, walk in. We got the hangar. It's all beautiful, and you'll get a chance to hear some really inspiring, very cool talks on space and cyber and energy and just really fun things. Hey, so without further ado, I want to introduce Zach and just kind of get a chance just to kind of learn a little bit about him, because personally, listening to his talk this morning, I was moved and I was inspired, and so I wanted to get a chance for folks to kind of get that same exposure. So Zach, if you wouldn't mind, if you would just kind of talk a little bit about who you are, where you came from, how you became an airman, and a little bit about the Air Force Gaming side as well.
Cool. Well, thanks, sir. Yeah. Honored to be here at Edwards. First time. Never been out this way. So do need to shout out the local, boot on the ground is Senior Airman Ian Pierce, Speed. Lots of you guys know him. Lots of folks coming up to me and say, hey, you know Speed? I'm like, of course I know Speed. Speed and I are going to have dinner tonight, So you guys have a local rep, and he is very active and one of our instrumental leaders in the program right now. So shout out to Speed. But yeah, Zach Bauman. Gamer from the earliest of days, and I guess my main takeaway from growing up in the Midwest and gaming was, now that I've kind of grown out of it, I'm not, I still love it, but I was like, those were the days. Those were the best times. I don't look back and say I wasted so much time or I missed out on things. I'm like, that was amazing. Those friends that I made, those memories, and any gamers out there can resonate with that, current and past and future. But yeah, then I moved on, joined the Air Force. I'm a personnelist by trade. Love what I do. Obviously had a handful of assignments. But along the way, in the last couple years, I met someone on LinkedIn. His name's Oliver Parsons, and he had a header that said Air Force Gaming. And I was like, yo, I just did a project in grad school on the gaming industry, and I was refreshed on not only what's all happening in gaming, but how massive it's becoming and exploding with the rise of technology. And so connected with Oliver, and we just started running together with a small team, and we knew the Air Force kind of didn't care at that point. So we just decided to kind of build it off on the side with the hope that maybe one day we got big enough that they'd have to take notice. And over the last couple years, that's kind of what's happened. And so Air Force Gaming is live. It's essentially the digital fitness center. You got your football intramurals, but now you've got your esports intramurals, and you've got people working out, just practicing their skills, people just hanging in the lobby, drinking their water bottles. You got all the different places to hang out. So yeah, there was a chief that ran up to me and said, I just joined the Discord while you were talking. So we've got the Air Force Gaming Discord. We just kind of recently split off to have also Space Force Gaming for all the Guardians. And it's cool that, the rest of the services are following suit. So that's been really, really, really cool to see the community first approach to kind of our gamers who serve. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool, Zach. I like the esports side of it, and this is your digital gym kind of mentality. Zach, I was sitting there thinking about it because I was thinking about this during your talk, and then also just with your words right here, right now. One of the things I found was really, really fascinating that you were talking about was all of the meta effects of playing games. Like, in other words, some people might look and go, it's a game, it's a waste of time, whatever. There's no productive activity that comes out of it. And you brought up some really good points. If you wouldn't mind sharing with the team. The other part I was going to bring up too, and the name of the book escapes me at the moment, but it was essentially making the case that games teach resilience. because I was thinking back to my days. I mean, I still play games. I love games, but I remember in the old days of like the Mario Brothers or whatever, that you would essentially mess it up over and over and over again. But you kept coming back to take another whack at the bat and to try a different technique, and then eventually you'd get over it, and then you'd get the victory, the little chime, or you get to see the video game ending back when games ended, back in those days. So would you mind just kind of bringing out some of that stuff of all of the other the different effects, if you will, of what you're trying to achieve with Air Force Gaming?
Yeah, those are all great points, and just on the basic level in games, you get feedback right away. Yeah. Even let's go back to Super Mario. You fall off the edge, the Troopa kind of rushed you off the edge, and you die, and then you respawn at the start of the level. You get feedback right away. So even as a young kid, I remember just like, okay, what do I need to do different? I'm mad that I lost my last life and had to go all the way back, but what do I need to do different now? So that's pretty cool, just as a basic thing. Yeah. For me, I'm more passionate about kind of the social side. I love the developmental, side of the leadership and kind of the teamwork, decision making in Call of Duty and call outs and all the kind of strategy that comes in games. But for me, it's more of the social, the connection. I'm 30, I'm single, I'm in the Air Force, and this is a hard career to keep bumping around. But what I do have is friends all over the world, from prior bases and prior communities that I was involved in. And so for me, what's so magical nowadays is just how online and open all these games are. You can pick up right as you did with any of those friends, regardless of geography. Some are on weird time zones. Yeah, I'm having my coffee and you're having a different drink, across the world in Korea. So it's a really cool thing just to be able to maintain that connectedness when it can be lonely, when you're out and about living kind of your military career. So.
Nah, Zach, that's a really good point. Just on a personal level, I mean, my son is into gaming as well. And even though we've PCS to a whole bunch of different spots, he's still able to maintain friendships, which was something that was unheard of before, because once you PCS, you keep a couple phone calls. In my day, it was pen pals or whatever. But after a while, it's just hard to maintain those types of relationships via distance. But what I've noticed is, if anything, my son's friendships have gotten even stronger, mainly because of the ability to continue playing these games online with some of the friends that he's had in previous assignments. So to your point, what you were bringing up a little bit earlier in your talk, they could go on adventures together and quests and to do things and to help out, whatever, and play games. Even if it's something as simple as like a Smash Brothers or something, it's just the act of doing something together that keeps them together, even if they're not geographically in the same spot. And so I thought that was a really, really good point, on the social side of it. Any other thoughts that you've seen, and just in terms of just the teams that you've been around, and any observations you've had from the social side?
Sure. Yeah, and I like what you said there. And, I've never coined this phrase, but I want to right now. FaceTime is weak. You know what I mean? Like, of all the ways to connect, Zoom, I poke Zoom happy hour every time I talk, and Zoom happy hour, so weak. Like all of us felt the pain of that. And at that time during COVID, I was doing a fellowship with a civilian company, and even they were struggling, a very leading kind of consulting firm. They were struggling to connect in the virtual world. And so we all learned a lot during COVID, but I think what we should all be paying attention to is, hey, connecting, over geographically separated areas doesn't have to be so boring. Of all the basic ways, a phone call, haven't heard from someone, FaceTime to see the baby. It's like, hey, throw a headset on. There's so many basic games out there. It becomes fun when you get the crew on it. So even just literally this week, caught up with some old friends from my last base. 2 of them have kids, and I said, hey, we need to play a game. And they're like, we're not even gamers, but I'm getting them on a retro game. We're scheduling a weekly time after the kids go to bed, you know what I mean? And we're all stoked. Like the Discord, our chat is blowing up because we're all excited. Not even so much because of the game, but more so that we get to spend time together, even though we're all across the country. So.
Dude, Zach, I'm loving this conversation. So once, again, thank you again for joining us, for the town hall. He didn't know it, but I basically pulled him aside after his talk, and I was like so excited and so jazzed by everything he was asking. I asked him if he wouldn't mind joining us real quick for town hall, and he was cool about bringing it forward. It's a little bit of an editorial on my side, but I think it goes, it's worth saying. One of the things I've really been very grateful for my Air Force is that we are willing to do these sorts of things, right? I can appreciate how weird and bizarre it is to say that you've joined the military and now you've joined the gaming league. But what Zach's really bringing out is, like it or not, one of the figures he had in his talk was 2.7 billion people are gamers. And that when you look at the demographic from, was it 18 to 34, I think, right?
34.
86% of them, which is our largest demographic in the Air Force, 86% of that demographic from 18 to 34 identifies as a gamer. And so what I've been really grateful about for service in the Air Force is the ability to recognize those sorts of things and to be able to take some action, even if it's a bit bizarre and strange to what we normally would have done, just to have the courage just to step out. And oh, by the way, to have that be essentially airman-led as opposed to like a top-down directive kind of thing. And to be in the lead for that, where other services now I think are starting to adopt this model that you're talking about, is really, really cool. It's just the reality of, hey, we're in a Air Force now that needs to be relevant for the demographics that we're trying to recruit and retain. And if it's something like a gaming standpoint, that's awesome. The other part that you brought up in your talk, which I thought was really fascinating from a psychological standpoint, is your character in these various games is essentially like a digital avatar of you. And in that world, people can actually feel a lot freer to bring up hard talks or things that are really difficult, because if I show up, then it's Colonel Gordon with my uniform on and my rank and my name and my face. But if I meet you digitally, you'll see my avatar, and it just changes the whole dynamic. And you might actually be able to reach someone because it's a digital representation of them, not actually them, but still them. And basically it opens up, some avenues where you can kind of talk. Do you have any like kind of war stories on that? Just things that you've observed, writ large at various Air Force gaming spots across the Air Force?
Yeah, and so many stories of airmen and guardians kind of telling their story and their love for video games, but also sharing their struggle along the way. And I'm thinking of a few of our volunteers over time and leaders in the org that had some really powerful stories. Like, rock bottom, mentally struggling, but like finding kind of a group who's passionate like him to game with and make some moves with, enter competitions, and suddenly, that was a fuel to kind of turn so many things around. And so I love that concept and that kind of togetherness. Like it really does attack the loneliness that sometimes service can get at us with. And so I think that's really special, and it's only getting better as technology continues to grow. And just a personal story, my friend Zig, who I mentioned in the talk, still involved with Air Force Gaming. Like, we don't have FaceTimes. He goes, "Hey, I got something going on at work. Would love to hear your thoughts. Let's drop a few games of Call of Duty, and I'll bring you in the fold." And I've adopted that. He's a bigger gamer than me, and I've adopted that with some of my peers at work. We're like, "Hey, I need to talk, but let's play a few games while we do."
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Nah, very, very cool, man. Yeah, I was thinking, because again, my son is a big gamer. He's going to go into computer science games as his major when he starts college this summer. And in the old days, like, my father would take me outside and we'd play catch or frisbee or something like that. Now, right, for me to get him to open up and to be able to talk back and forth, I sit and play games with him, and it achieves the same ends, even if it's a different means with which to get there. Yeah. So Zach, once again, thanks for joining us. Real quick, if you have like any kind of parting thing you want to leave to the audience, just any like words of wisdom or just some thoughts, I'll give you the final word here.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me, sir. And I would just say my mantra in terms of, whether you love your job or you want to switch or you're not sure what you want to do, like, talk to a lot of people and try a lot of stuff. That's kind of my mantra. I stole that from a book called Designing Your Life, but simple as that. You know what I mean? You got to just go talk, have the courage to ask questions to people you don't know yet, and then try some stuff that you haven't tried yet. That's kind of a surefire way to figure out what you like and what you don't. So thank you, sir.
Very much, Zach. Thank you, man. From one airman to another airman, and I mean this truly, especially after doing 3 startups in the Air Force. So I got a chance to stand up a new combat unit in Afghanistan way back in 2008, and I got a chance to be on the initial cadre for AFWorks, and I got a chance to set up the MIT accelerator, those sort of things. I know those things are really, really hard, really, really difficult to go do, and everybody sees the coolness of Air Force gaming, but they don't see all the sweat and tears and the doubts and everything else that happens behind the scenes just to even get it to this level. The fact that you were willing to do that and be a part of that and to kind of shepherd this thing along and make it into what it's become, you truly have my respect. And I'm really grateful you made it out here to come talk to us here at Edwards, and I'm really glad that you were able to spend a couple minutes with us on Town Hall today. So, Zach, thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.
Cool. Yeah, head back on in, man, and go back to the events. Good stuff. Okay, so again, I just wanted to just kind of bring everybody back into the fold. Thanks for hanging with us for a little bit, and thanks again, Zach, for coming to chat with us. So off camera, we have Miss Becca. Miss Becca, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're looking to see if we have any questions that came in yet.
Okay. From last week.
Okay, go ahead.
First one, any plans to expand FAM Camp further?
Okay, got it. So the question, if you didn't hear it off camera, was any plans to expand FAM Camp further? In the immediate future, not yet, but there's still some additional work that needs to happen to continue to expand it. So the big picture perspective, what the question's getting at is the housing issue that we have on the base. The immediate short term was to expand FAM Camp in the way that you've seen it now, and it almost doubled, right, what the available spots were for the RVs and everything else to pull in. So that was wonderful work that was performed. Our next big things to try to look at are how do we expand the actual housing on the base itself, whether that's an apartment complex or whether or not that's additional base homes. That's the main effort for it. In terms of the actual FAM Camp itself, the nice thing with FAM Camp is that that's something that we can essentially do so long as we find the monies to go do it, and it's much lower level of approval than what it was to actually go out and get additional homes put on the base. So as those spots fill in, we'll certainly look at it again in terms of do we need to expand it again in the future, but I haven't seen any immediate plans in terms of adding additional spots to the FAM Camp as of yet. And while we're on the subject, because I think there was another topic that came in last week with respect to stocking fish at the pond, right? So I did get some feedback on that. So the bottom line is there are plans with which to restock, and we're talking about the pond that's, as you head out towards Southgate on the right, to be able to expand that up and actually restock the pond. There's some logistical challenges at the moment, but that's certainly in the plans with which to go do to expand. I think bluegill, fish were one of the different varieties that we're going to put into there. So the message has been received. Understand that they're working on it now. There is one little snag that they're trying to work through, but the intent absolutely 100% is to restock the pond for all the great reasons, for sportsmen that love that sort of thing. So anyway, that just came into my mind as we were talking about questions from last week. What do we have? Was there an additional one there, Becca?
Yeah. Can you provide any details on why disabled veterans who do not retire from the military are charged an additional fee to shop at the commissary? Apparently there's a surcharge that they get if they're disabled and they didn't actually retire.
Fascinating. Okay. So I'm not going to dance around that. I actually do not know, but I know where I can go find that answer. So I think it's me doing the town hall next week. So if we don't get a phone a friend, I'm going to go take that question for action, and I'm going to go see what I can go find out, and then I'll bring it back. So just so I'm getting what the question is so that the rest of the audience understands. I believe the question was if I'm a disabled veteran, but that I haven't reached retirement, or I didn't reach retirement eligibility when I separated and left the military, that when I go shop at is it the commissary or the BX?
Commissary.
It's the commissary. Okay, so that when I shop at the commissary, it seems like there's a surcharge that's charged for a disabled veteran that is not a retiree, but has separated, but was disabled at the time of separation. So I've never heard that question. I do not know the answer, and so I will go find that answer. And if you tune in next week, I'll be sure to let you know what I found. Okay. What else? Any other questions?
The only residual from last week
Yeah.
was the extra 3 feet on the runway. Boss never got to the story.
Yeah, so this is urban legend kind of stuff. I think it's actually true, though. I think it actually goes beyond the world of urban legend. When I first got here to Edwards back in 2005, 2006 timeframe or so, as you're driving out towards the south base, so all of our Bomberland kind of south base stuff, right on the right side as you're driving down that street, there was the old, in fact, south base at one time, that was the original Edwards Air Force Base. This was back in the time of General Yeager and X-1 and that sort of thing. But as you're driving out towards South Base, up on the hillside, kind of where our air traffic control radar is right now, that was the spot where the general used to live. And by the time I got here, 2005, 2006 timeframe or so, that had been long been abandoned, and it was a spot I think Civil Air Patrol was operating in that home. But the home actually came with a pool, and the urban legend of Edwards is we ran out of sufficient concrete to be able to make the pool at the time the house was constructed, and the answer was, well, we do have concrete, but it's being used for the runway, so if we shorten the runway by just a couple of feet, we can take that concrete and then we can use that to go build the pool, and that's exactly what they did. So that home is long since gone. We basically consolidated all of our housing to the area around the BX and the commissary area, so